What's going on, everybody? It's Relentless here, bringing you yet another Division build video. But before we hop into today's video, let's go over the links in the description below. If you want to enter in that console giveaway of either a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One S, then you want to click on the Gleam link in the description below and follow the steps, and you'll be entered in to win that console of choice. Also, check out Revolution Gaming's Facebook community, the most awesome non-toxic gaming community out there on all things gaming, not just Division. Now let's hop into this build. Now this has been a really fun and entertaining build, especially on missions and incursions such as Falcon's Lost and Clear Sky, and basically any incursion that involves a lot of grenades or grenade launchers being flung at you. As we all know, it is the 6-piece classified final measure gear set. And if you're not familiar with the talent, let's go over them right quick. In the 2-piece, we have 25% exotic damage resilience, 15% protection from elites, and the set bonus for 3. And the 4-piece, we have when in range of a hostile grenade or mortars, diffuses them and adds grenades to your inventory. Can only happen once every 8 seconds. Now the 5-piece is 15% exotic damage resilience and 15% protection from elites. And the 6-piece talent is improved final measure. When a grenade is diffused, the player and all group members within 30 meters gain a buff based on the grenade type that was diffused. EMP shot grenades skill power is increased by 20% for 8 seconds. And frag grenades, incendiary grenades, weapon damage is increased by 20% for 8 seconds. And flashbang and tear gas grant armor increased by 20% for 8 seconds. Now you can go over this build and mix and match different types depending on what your playstyle is or what your teammates, if you have any at the time, especially on incursions, you will have teammates. Then you want to spec into what is best for the squad itself. Now, granted, if you would like more skill power, then we'll get to that in a minute because I have multiple pieces in certain types that grant me more skill power. But if you're more on the DPS side, then I have gear set pieces that are rolled to reflect more DPS. And also, if you're like, as what you see here, an average overall build with firearms and electronics with good toughness, then this is the middle ground. As you can see, 1876 armor on this vest. I wish it was higher. Much like the Lone Star vests and the Barretts I have below. Wish it was at least 1950 in armor, but so far this is the only one that I've come across. At 1373 in firearms, 16,545 in health, 9% skill haste, and 54% ammo capacity. In its mod slots, we have 263 electronics and 265 electronics, both with skill haste. Now moving on to the masks. 997 armor, rolled to firearms, and the major attributes we have skill power, and the minors we have burn resistance, and the firearms are at 1383. In its mod slot, we have 266 electronics and 3% skill haste. And this right here is where it kind of differs on what kind of build more or less you're looking for. As of right here, if you want more on the DPS and want more of a crit, then I have this mask right here at 986 armor with 1391 firearms and roll to crit chance. Now if you want something with more skill power, then as you can see here, I have 1395 electronics on this mask and 9828 in skill power. So as you can see, it only gives me about 27,000 more in skill. But if you want your heals to come back faster, or you want to have stronger heals or talents or whatnot, then you will want more skill power. And you can actually push this even further if you would like, because there is not a mod in the mod slot here. I'll go ahead and, for giggles sakes, we'll just slap that in there. And as you can see, 212k skill power. So if you prefer more skill power, then by all means roll to your choice of your playstyle or what your group needs at the time, depending on incursion. I like to have multiple ways of actually creating a situational build, I would say. And Final Measure is more or less a situational build, and definitely one of the sleeper builds because you can actually play a support role with decent skill power, good firearms, and with grenades being thrown at you and all the buffs and bonuses you not only get, but also your teammates, then you can play a vital role in even in PvP as well as PvE. So roll the things how you prefer or what your team is desired. Always have more or less a backup strategy. Test things out to see your personal preferences. And if you've all seen my build videos, then you know my personal preference is more on the DPS side, but yet I wanted to be able to help my teammates a little bit more. So instead of running my usual around 145 to 150k skill power and more firearms, I opted in for skill haste and more electronics. Moving on to the knee pads now. We have 1582 in armor, 1388 in firearm, 16,163 in health, and what I call the trifecta in the minor attributes when it comes to knee pads, with bleed resistance, shock resistance, and burn resistance. That's for the flame turrets, the shock turrets, and the Predator's Mark builds. And in its mod slots, we have electronics with skill haste and first aid self-heal. Now moving on to the backpack. Decent armor roll at 1270. Good electronics roll on it with major attributes of 12,921 in health. In the minor attributes we have ammo capacity, and in the mod slots we have electronics and skill haste with 6% first aid self-heals. Now moving on to the gloves. This is the only pair of gloves that I've actually come across. We have 982 in armor, 1381 in firearms with crit damage, enemy armor damage, and assault rifle damage. Now, I'd prefer, instead of enemy armor damage, that'd be crit hit chance. But this particular set of gloves, the only set of gloves that I've come across, was rolled to stamina, and it had pistol damage on it and enemy armor damage. So therefore, I opted in to take out the pistol damage since I would get better use out of the enemy armor damage, and then replaced it with 16% crit hit damage. Now moving on to the holster. 1396, 1399, and 1391 as my main stats, and 965 in armor. And the major attributes we have 3.5% crit chance. Now if you prefer a little bit more health, then you can opt in the major attributes to roll health, but that only gives you another 7,116. So basically that is just one extra bullet either from an NPC or another player in the dark zone. So I think I would benefit from more of the crit chance than the additional health here. And in the mod slot we have the first aid self-heal. Now let's go over the weaponry. In the first one we have the lightweight M4, 20.8k damage with brutal, adept, and fierce. In the magazine we have magazine size, crit hit chance, crit hit damage. The large optics we have crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and headshot damage. The large muzzle we have crit hit damage, stability, and crit chance. And the underbarrel we have stability, accuracy, and optimal range. Now moving on to my bread and butter, since I am mostly an SMG player, we have an MP5 with fierce, deadly, and vicious. And the magazine we have magazine size, crit hit damage, crit hit chance. In the small optics we have crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and headshot damage. In the small muzzle we have crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and headshot damage. In the underbarrel we have crit hit damage, stability, and optimal range. Now you can mix and match whatever your preferred preference are, but since the gloves are rolled to AR and I could not switch over to SMG, then you want your gloves to reflect whatever weapon type that you are most comfortable or like using. In this case I preferred SMG, but I'll also use an AR, so in this case I opted in just to leave the AR damage alone and instead roll the pistol damage that I rarely ever use. So it worked out decently until I can find another pair of gloves rolled the way I want them to. I also have an ACR, but it's more or less crap. I use it more or less for my Firecrest build. Then we have an infantry MG5, prepared, deadly, and unforgiving. If you prefer shotguns or MP7s, or even the urban MDR. The sky's the limit with this build. It's basically up to you, depending on the situation and what incursion that you are running. So let's go over the main stats now on my character sheet. As you can see, we got 46% crit chance and 114% crit damage with 62% headshot damage. 0 damage to elites, and that's 6.5% enemy armor damage. We have 173.650 skill power with 24% skill haste. Survivability, we have 32.9% armor mitigation, and our max health pool is 200k. So basically this is an overall build. It's more or less rolled to reflect an overall neutrality, I guess, if that's even a word, for more or less an average overall, not swaying from one side to the other, but a balanced build, depending on what my teammates need, such as when we ran Falcons Lost, I opted in for a little more skill power, as you can see with the different sets of masks that I have, depending on the situation and the incursion that I'm running. It is really fun, and also it kind of like throws people for a loop when PvPing in the dark zone, because we all know there's short bow knee pads out there and grenades are flinging and flying everywhere, and I use a lot of grenades myself. So no matter what grenades are thrown at you in some form or fashion, if your teammates are in close range, I believe it's up to 30 meters, then they are going to receive a buff no matter what it is. So you're actually more along the line of support role, but you can put out damage yourself. There are better damage builds out there, but if you apply the 20%, let's say, damage buff, then basically you're looking at around 22 to 23, maybe a little bit more in damage here on an incendiary or frag grenades, and around 21k on Navy MP5. And then you got, you know, your skill power boost from other grenades thrown at you. So it's just a plethora of advantages you can have for those that like to fling grenades in the dark zone and be an overall support guy for your team. Now, if you want to give even more support, that's why you want to add more skill power, but this is an overall balanced build the way I have it here. But like I said, you can, you know, mix and match towards your playstyle, whether you want more skill power or you want to just stack on the DPS. The sky's the limit with this one. Like I said, it could be a sleeper build as far as if you stack everything to firearms and DPS and then get the buff, but it's only more or less situational. And that kind of situation, you just better hope, you know, a frag or incendiary grenade is thrown at you. So that way you get that damage bonus to your weaponry. But if not, then it just depends on your PvP skills. But it is a very, very fun build to use either in PvP or incursions, and comes in quite handy. I'm glad that they actually add a 5 and 6 piece to this, and looking forward to all the other gear sets 5 and 6 piece bonuses that are yet to come. Also, I'm looking forward into 1.8. So if you think this build is would be nice and handy in incursions, or you like the way it's set up, or if you just like the video, then I appreciate it if you ground and pound that like button. And if you're not yet a sub, then subscribe to the channel. It'd be much appreciated. But if not, thanks for tuning in anyways, and we'll see you guys fudging later.